Hey everybody, this is Lexy Lattimore. I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Michelle, is it okay if Daniel and I kick things off?
That's great. Thanks.
Very good. So welcome everyone to the block party. It's so glad to see all of you here with us. We're actually gonna start uh, with something that we call a mindful minute. So I know we just started with this incredible music thanks to DJ Lexy on the ones and twos. But we're gonna go ahead and just start with a mindful minute, which is also going to be led by Lexy. So I'll pass the mic to you, Lexy.
Great. So we're just going to take a minute to come together. So if everybody could just sit comfortably in a chair wherever you are. Get your feet square on the floor. Just take your shoulders up to your ears and relax them down the back. We're just going to take a couple of deep breaths together. You can close your eyes if that feels best, or just focus in on one spot if that feels better. And just finding stillness, just observing your breath. We are here today coming together as a people who are really excited about all that's happening in Hough. And so we just want to take a moment of gratitude within each of ourselves to just think about one thing that you're grateful for. Maybe that's a person, maybe that's an object, maybe that's a memory or a moment, and just bring that to your mind and just hold it lovingly with your breath. And just breathing out and letting that go. Just take a minute to recognize how you're feeling in this moment. Maybe you're feeling excited, maybe you're feeling anxious. Maybe today's been a hard day. Maybe today's been a very relaxed day. Not judging how you feel, but just taking a minute to acknowledge how you feel. Just making peace with that acknowledgement. And then in this last moment of the mindful minute, just having a centering word or thought. Maybe it's something you'd like to bring to the space. Maybe you want to bring positivity or kindness. Maybe you're a talker who wants to listen. Maybe you're a listener who wants to share. And just having a centering theme for how you'd like to show up in the space. And we'll just take one more big deep breath in, letting it go, and slowly fluttering the eyes back open. Thank you all so much. Daniel, I'm going to have you introduce us, and then I can go through some of the Zoom technicalities for everybody. You're muted, Daniel.
Thank you. I always do that. So welcome everyone. My name is Daniel Gray-Kontar. I'm part of the team that has worked to bring a lot of you together in this room. Giving much love and respect to Michelle, who's here, Mansfield, Joyce, Lexy, Mary, Joyce, and so many others who have brought us together. Really the purpose of us coming together is for us to get to know each other a little better as we embark upon a new journey for Hough through East 66th Street. That street is scheduled for reconstruction. And the community's ideas should really guide this work. So tonight's block party is an opportunity for us to connect with our neighbors and the project team, many of whom I mentioned just a little while ago, to introduce the project a little bit and to provide a foundation for additional community conversations on envisioning opportunities together. I would be truly remiss if I didn't say also a few words about folks who have come together before even us, who have really laid the foundation. Folks like Mansfield Frazier, who's here with us today. Folks like Keith Benford, who has been a resident on the block for many years, I think 19 or 20, and so many others who have been pioneers along East 66 and in Hough to make it the community that it is today. We are here today to build on that work and on those efforts in solidarity. So that is why we're here, hang out, get to know each other, and talk about the future of health and community. So with that, I think that I'm going to pass the mic so that we can kind of like unpack some rules of engagement, as it were, for using this new technology, this Zoom technology. So I'm going to pass the mic, talk a little bit about how to use Zoom.
Yes, we just want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to use this tool that we have. So for those of us who are not familiar, welcome to this Zoom room. We are going to ask that everyone but the speaker be muted for the first part of the conversation. That is in no way to silence anybody's voice. It's just so that we are able to all see the visualization that Michelle is going to show us, get oriented to where the project team is, and then from there we will break out into smaller groups where we want to hear from every single person in the space. We just know that, you know, having however many of us on the call trying to all talk in one space would not make sense on this platform. So we're going to ask that everyone remain muted until we're in the breakout rooms. We are going to ask a couple of questions and leave room for some comments in our chat feature. And so as you can see at the top, the chat is circled. And it should be at the bottom of your screen and look like a little call out word bubble that says chat. So once you're there, you can chat to everyone, and you can also chat if you'd like. If you see a neighbor or a friend and you want to say, hey, you can scroll and find their name and send them a private message. We will be recording this event so that others can view over the next few days. So please be mindful. You might appear in the recording. And again, the mute button is down on the bottom left-hand side. So if you need to mute, that'll be there, and we can also help control for that as well. And then on our next slide, you can view every
I think Lexy might be frozen. We'll give her a minute.
Yeah, okay.
Well, maybe in that case, Daniel, maybe you can kick us off with a check-in question and get us started there.
Sure.
We can work on any technical issues over the chat.
No problem. Okay. So hopefully everybody feels comfortable enough using Zoom. Of course, if there's any problems, I think we're working on Joe. Okay, Joe, great. Looks like your audio is sorted, so that's good. So if you're having any questions with Zoom, please use the chat function. And great, Joe, looks like you're all set. So just use the chat function in the same way that Joe has to communicate if you're having any difficulties at all. So we're gonna move forward, and we're going to do an activity where you are going to need to type into the chat box. Essentially what we're gonna do is we're gonna ask you 3 questions. And after, well, let me say this. The way that we will ask the question is we're gonna ask the question, and then we're gonna invite you to type in your answer into the chat box. We're going to give you a few minutes to type your answer into the chat box, and then we're going to give you a few more seconds to hit enter so that your answers all hit at the same time. So I'm going to give you a perfect example. We'll start. I'm not going to ask the actual questions. I'm just going to ask you a test question. So the test question is, give me one word to describe how you're feeling in this moment. So right now I'm going to give you 10 seconds just to type it in. Don't hit enter. So one word to describe how you're feeling right now. 4, 3, 2, 1. Now at the count of 3, I'm going to invite each of you. By now you should have typed that word in. And at the count of 3, I'm going to invite you all to hit enter. 1, 2, 3. Outstanding. Beautiful. So what we'll do is we'll kind of like capture all of these words and all of these answers to get a sense of how we're feeling in community and get a sense of your thoughts from one another. And all of these answers look very similar and totally understandable, but there's a lot of feeling of excitement, happiness, calm, and at ease. And that's a wonderful way for us to start this. So that's how we're going to play the game. That's how it starts. So I'm going to pass the mic to Lexy to ask the real questions for us. All right, Lexy.
All right. So question 1, name something or someone your neighborhood would not be the same without. I'll say it again and then I'll put it in the chat. Name something or someone your neighborhood would not be the same without. I'm going to give us about 20 seconds. Just the first thing that comes to your mind, write it in the chat, and I'll give a countdown after that, 3, 2, 1, and we'll press go. Everyone in the chat, let's all push go on 3, 2, 1, enter.
Wow. Oh, wow. These are fantastic. So Fatima has come up a couple times. So that's clearly, yeah. Wow, white flight. Yeah, right on. Trees. Yeah, give enough respect to the trees, the historic buildings. And Mansfield's name has come up here a few times. So clearly there's a lot of respect for Mansfield and places to walk. Trees, again, has come up. So this idea of trees, family, Mansfield as a leader, Cocoa Bakery, Fatima is clearly, all right, these are good.
These are great.
These are very good. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay.
All right, ready for question 2. Question 2, name your favorite place in Cleveland outside of your neighborhood. If you're thinking of more than one, just choose one of them for now. I'll say it again. Name your favorite place in Cleveland outside of your neighborhood. If you're thinking of more than one, just choose one of them for now. 20 seconds on the clock. And we'll give it a countdown. Everyone ready? In 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, yeah. Okay. The lake, shoreline, Edgewater Park. Clearly, I love records. Art Museum. Edgewater comes up again. Lakefront again. Towpath Trail. West Side Market has come up a few times. MLK, where I ride my motorcycle. Okay. All right, Mansfield. And the beach. Thank you, Tiana. Christmas Story House. Okay. I think I know where that came from. Okay, very good. And welcome. Welcome to the cause day. Very good. So there's a lot here about our waterfront. And so clearly we value our waterfront. We value places where people are coming together, like the West Side Market, the Art Museum, Coventry. These are wonderful. This tells us more about what we share in common than we know. And I hope you can see and feel that. Okay, last question, Lexy.
All right, here we go. Question 3. Name one word that sums up your vision for the future of Hough. Name one word that sums up your vision for the future of Hough. 20 seconds on the clock. Getting ready to press send in 3, 2, 1, go.
Hopeful, thriving, community, growing, thriving.
It's 6 o'clock.
Connected, community, supportive, beautiful, connected. So there's a lot here about community, families, growth, growing. Hope is here. Sharing is here. Revitalization and change. So once again, some of these words are similar, but some of them are different, but they have the same kind of feel. And there's something here that's implicitly stated. There is a growth and a change for a place that allows families to develop and grow and to include others in the process of that growth. This is beautiful. So once again, I'm prayerful that everybody sees so much that we have in common. There is a unique vision, and hopefully we will be guided through a process over the course of today and the next several weeks on bringing this vision, both implicit and explicit, to life. This is wonderful. Lexy, do you have anything to add to that?
No, thank you all for being here, and thank you for sharing. There's more to come.
Awesome. Okay, so I think at this point, now that we know a little bit about one another through the way in which we look at our shared community and look at the world that we're seeking to create together, I think now would be a really good time for us to move and talk a little bit about this vision and talk a little bit about the street and precisely why we are here. So should I pass the mic to Michelle at this time? Michelle and Alex?
Let's do it.
All right, very good.
Actually, and I'm going to pass the mic to Joyce, who's going to provide a little bit of introduction to the projects, and then we'll jump in after.
Hey, got the mic, dropped it. Hi, everybody. My name is Joyce Huang. I work with Midtown Cleveland, Inc. It's the Community Development Corporation, just along Euclid, Chester, Carnegie. We also serve the Asiatown area as well. And I'm just here to give a little bit of project background to keep it quick and snappy so that we can get to connecting with each other. Just a little bit more, you'll see on your screen here that there's this beautiful aerial shot of the Hough neighborhood, and right in the center is League Park. And back 8 years ago in 2012, there was a a plan done around Leak Park to do precisely what we were, talking about in our one-word visions of seeing Hough be connected, to be thriving, hopeful, supported. And unfortunately, the plan did sit on the shelf. It was carried forward, I think, by a lot of stakeholders who kept vocalizing the need to move forward, people like Mansfield Fraser and Bob Zimmer. And until about 2017, when Councilman Bashir Jones kind of came on the scene, he started to gather these key stakeholders, community development practitioners, residents, to say like, all right, let's get some energy behind moving this forward again. And so fast forward to last summer, we did learn some news of new neighbors moving onto the street. So the Cleveland Foundation, they are building their new headquarters at the corner of Euclid and 66th. The new Hough branch of the Cleveland Public Library will also be joining the street. And so I think that gave a lot of additional sort of fuel to the conversation to say, all right, this is a great opportunity to put our heads together, our minds together, our hearts together to get this done. And so here we are. We are here to work together on redesigning an update to that 2012 TLCI plan. And typically with these street designs, usually kind of the way things are, kind of the traditional method is, there's a firm that comes up with some drawings and then you hand them over to the engineers, they make the drawings, and then people come in with concrete and asphalt, and then there's a street. But we know that streets are more than just concrete and asphalt. They are trying to do the things that we all talked about in our visions. It's a way to connect. And this is a way to connect from Euclid all the way to Superior across different segments of the areas, right? So from Midtown to Hough, as well as many of the residents and institutions. And so we need more input and your voices, because this is something that needs to have community input so that it can truly benefit the community, not just something that, someone out there, some expert out there kind of made up, right? So already we've talked to folks at Fatima, some of the youth and the elders, some of the residents, and we have heard themes of justice, equity, peace, anti-violence, and economic justice, and have integrated that into the project goals. So that is a wonderful start. Thanks to Lexy and Daniel, and they are here. We all are here to move forward to the next phase of, we need to come together and come up with a design of how to make that project goal manifest. So if we go to the next slide, I want to share a little bit about who's at the front lines, so the faces of the project. You've met Lexy and Daniel already. They are two artists who have joined our team. And one word about this team is that it's got a variety of gifts and skills and people, backgrounds, and personalities. And I think that's one thing that has made this whole effort very enjoyable, is just there are lots of different perspectives being brought on board. You have designers like Michelle and Alex, art administrators and like Tiffany Graham. We have community development practitioners. We have public sector folks like Kelly Britt from NOACA, Councilman Jones, the councilman, and Director Friday Collier from Planning Commission. And then a large group of people on the next slide have also been a part of shaping the implementation. So you'll see everyone from residents to institutions, and of course we could always use more residents on the ground giving input. But these are folks that have been giving some input already. And we're here today because we want to hear from you and to really collaborate and involve and co-design this together. So I'm gonna turn it over to Michelle and Alex, who are gonna zip through their project overview slides.
Thanks so much, Joyce. Hi, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Michelle Bandy-Zalatoris from City Architecture and have had the pleasure of being involved in this project so far. we'd like to give just a really brief overview of the project so that we can move on to some more interactive activities, but wanted to provide a little bit of foundation. This initiative is focused on implementation and, as Joyce mentioned, building on the 2012 Leak Park District Plan. It includes a streetscape plan that will lead to construction in the next few years. A goal of the project is to develop designs for a 21st century street, essentially to create a new city standard for the city of Cleveland. We are currently in the part of the project that focuses on working with the community to develop design ideas. And this is critical for making sure community priorities are carried through the next phases of engineering and construction. Existing conditions along East 66th Street include a range of uses, new and historic buildings, housing, institutions, and commercial spaces. In addition to the existing assets along the corridor, a series of new investments are planned for the area. As such, East 66th Street will continue to play a critical role in connecting the community. Through this project, we've been asked to develop a new prototype for neighborhood streets in the city. To us, this means more than concrete and asphalt. If these streets are going to truly serve our residents, they must incorporate ideas of heritage, community, helpful new technology, healthy environment, beautiful design, and above all, justice. Through our conversations with the community so far, we recognize this is not just about rebuilding a street. It's about creating a national model public space that connects in new ways while promoting social justice and equity. Our conversations over the next several weeks will focus on the details of this 1 mile long corridor. We are working on designs for the public right-of-way, which includes the street and sidewalks, and will not be taking any private property. This is a public property plan. Our work together will help us envision a design that supports the neighborhood with accessible, safe, and beautiful spaces. And now we'd like to mix things up a little bit with a group activity. I'm going to pass things over to my colleague, Alex Pesta.
Good evening, everybody. It's wonderful to see so many faces together on a Friday night. I would like to invite everybody to get out your cell phone if you don't have it out already. And we are going to conduct a series of interactive questions that will allow us to kind of see and kind of gauge some temperature of the folks that are participating here, not unlike the wonderful exercise that we just kind of conducted through Daniel and Lexy. So on the next series of slides, you'll see ways to be able to join our poll. You can do it in a few ways. One is through your app or through your phone, and the other would be through a web browser. So Krista, can you help me out a little bit on your end with the poll? I think we are experiencing a little bit of technical difficulty. There we go. All right. Oops. All right, as we wait for that to come back online, here's what I'm going to ask everybody to do. And so we're going to kind of change it up a little bit. I'm going to ask a question for you guys, and I'm going to ask very similar kind of a one-word question or one-word answer that you would like to see in your neighborhood. So you guys clearly know your neighborhood better than we ever could. So what types of new uses would you like to see? And so I'm going to ask you guys very similar to how Daniel and Lexy asked their question. I'm going to type it into the chat room for you to see, and then I'm going to ask you guys to think about it. Then I'm going to do a countdown, and we will see all of your wonderful answers with us. So, what new uses would you like to see in the neighborhood along East 66th Street? All right, I'm going to give you a countdown in 20. 5, 3, 2, 1, hit enter. All right, see a lot of great things. Ice cream parlor, I know that has been on the radar for a long time. Clearly, one of our design objectives is to celebrate the history and the heritage that is here and ensure that is communicated through the new designs, communicated through the new places and spaces that will be part of East 66th Street. So thank you for all of this. It's wonderful. Eatery, places that could be together. I have a sense that, I don't know how everybody on the call feels, but I cannot wait to be able to be in a public space and shake everybody's hand that's on this call or give you a hug if I know you a little bit better. And so I see that there's a lot of kind of pent up. We want to be in those places and certainly want to ensure that those places are woven into this design. So I think that we have our ability to interact again digitally here. So I'm going to ask you this. So if you have your phone, you can send a text message, City Arch. It's on the right-hand side of your screen, City Arch 502 to number 22333. You will get a notification that you are now engaged in the poll. If you would rather do it through a web browser, you can go to pollev.com. There you will be asked to enter a username or a invite, which will be City Arch 502, and then be prompted with a name. So if you could do that, I'll give you guys a few seconds to do that. Then that way we should be able to see you showing up in real time with some of these questions. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next one. All right. Some people are already voting. All right, here we go. This is the icebreaker. It's a Zoom meeting, how you would like to spend your Friday evening. I'm sure that we all have strong opinions about what that means in our new normal. All right. Appreciate it. I appreciate the honesty with the no. I really absolutely do, and that only makes us feel more grateful that you're spending some time with us this evening. Looks like we've got about 12, 13. If you want to get in, give you 10 more seconds. All right. I'm going to move on to the next one. All right. So now we're going to get into a couple more questions for you. All right. Of the places and spaces along East 66th Street, so the streetscape, that's sidewalks, public space, yards, these are the real components that we would like to hear more from you as far as a priority. All right, you guys are jumping in. I appreciate it. Sidewalks, lighting, trees, landscaping. We heard a lot of that in the introduction, the questions that Daniel and Lexy posed. It is public art, which I would imagine is related to the history and the heritage and wanting to celebrate with lots of color and excitement and vibrancy along the corridor. So these are fantastic. One of the things that, as these are kind of coming in, please keep sharing, that I wanted to touch on in our work is that it is going to be a beautiful street. It is also going to be a safe street. And I believe that safety means different things to many different folks. From an operational standpoint, we want to make sure that where people are walking or riding a bike, regardless of physical ability, that folks feel absolutely safe and invited. So I love the safer street crossings and paths that we're starting to see, but it is clear to me that I see public art, murals, painted sidewalks, sculptures, new parks and public spaces kind of running to the top of that list. So that's exactly what we want to hear, and I think that that's exactly what this streetscape can offer for folks. So I'm going to give you a couple more seconds if you want to jump in before we move on to our next question. Okay. All right. I already asked this one. We're going to go ahead and ask again so we can get it kind of in a different format. If you could type in the new types of uses, business, activities you would like to see in the neighborhood. Please use one-word answers. That way we can start to see if there's any overlap, or if we start to see that there's any ideas that start to kind of go to that top of that list. Somebody gets very creative with the use of hyphens. I appreciate that. We can see ice cream and shopping. Restaurant is certainly kind of out in the lead. We're seeing a lot of that. Places for folks to get together. I think entrepreneurial opportunities for folks in the neighborhood, I think, is something that we've heard as well through conversation. So definitely see a lot of that in the conversation this evening. Thank you for this. This is going to continue to cycle through. These questions are going to be continued to ask throughout the design process in order to make sure that we are collecting as many voices as we possibly can. As Daniel, Lexy, and Michelle, Joyce also outlined, this is a community-based process. It is much more than kind of the bricks and mortar or the asphalt of a street. So thank you for sharing this with us, and we will continue to collect this information. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Daniel, Lexy, to kind of get us into the next wave of our meeting.
Great.
You go ahead, Lex.
Well, thank you all so much. Again, all of this information is wonderful, and we want to make sure we provide everyone an opportunity to have a longer form discussion in smaller groups. So Michelle and team are preparing to break us out into smaller groups. What's going to happen if you are on a computer or phone, there will be a message that will come up saying which breakout room you will be assigned to, and you will just accept that, and it will take you to that room. You will appear there. There will be a facilitator and maybe another support staff there to ask a couple of other questions. At this time, we do want everyone to be able to unmute and share, and we ask that we hope that we're able to hear from everybody. Daniel, is there anything else that I should add here at this time?
I think all is well.
Hey, Lexy, this is Joyce. I'm wondering actually if you could just say what the questions are out loud so that we're all kind of prepped, and then we'll go into our breakout rooms.
Sure, let me just pull that up. Joyce, do you have the questions right in front of you?
I have two of them. I just want to make sure those are the.
Okay. Yep, that's it. Go ahead and put those out there.
All right. So the two questions are, what are your favorite memories of your neighborhood growing up? And then what is your vision for Hough? So we're going to go into those breakout rooms and share out on those. Okay.
All right, and I've got everybody set up. I'm going to hit the button and we should be distributed to our rooms.
This was truly wonderful. I hope that you all had as fantastic an experience just getting to know some of the people in your breakout rooms, and just getting some of the stories, because it is truly through our stories that we're able to share together, where we find truth, and we find truth in community and in solidarity. And so I think what we can do in this moment is just invite all of the group leaders to share out what they heard in the stories that were shared in your small groups. And we can go, one by one. Do we have a sense of how we want to do this, Joyce, Michelle, Lexy? Do we want to go group one, or do we want to go 6-2-1? How do we want to do it? We want to go.
So we had 5 different groups.
5, okay.
So I think we can do actually 5 different groups, and then we had a handful of people who weren't able to get into a group. So we had a little mini chat in the main conference, in the main space as well. So
Okay.
And
6 total.
And I'm going to be the timekeeper, and each group will have 1 minute to capture your thoughts.
Thank you.
All right.
So who was in group 1, Michelle?
Daniel, that was your group.
Okay. So I guess I can report out for our group. We really had a chance just to really get to know each other, and we didn't get a chance to unpack the second question. But the first question was really meaningful. And I think part of what we experienced in that was one of the favorite moments was the moment when the new day in Hough arrived. The moment when people began to become invested in Hough, even though Hough did not have the best reputation at the time, according to the person that was speaking. But this person expressed that it was having gone through some of the difficult moments and then seeing that, yes, it was possible for people to invest in the neighborhood and to share a common vision was a favorite moment for this person. And then the other person who spoke really talked a lot about the solidarity that can happen and that can come out of a single idea and people coming together around that idea to celebrate the neighborhood and celebrate each other. And specifically, that moment was the New Day in Hough parade and the bike rides that were organized and that happened. And those bike rides were in the tradition of the Black nationalist movement before even the New Day in Hough experience. So those were some really important moments that folks shared. And we know that there are others in the group that we weren't able to get to, but those were really meaningful. So I hope that captures what was said in our group, and I'll pass it to the next group.
I think group 2 was folks in my group, right? And so I'm going to ask Mr. Jonathan Rees to unmute himself and share, just capture some of the thoughts that we talked about.
Well, basically, it was this on the same premise that was spoken of before. And the New Day in Hough event is when I bought my home down here because of Fannie Lewis and being a great leader that she was. And I knew there was a movement going on, and I wanted to be part of that. That's why I came here and devoted my energy to the revitalization of the Hough neighborhood. And I met a lot of great people, and it's up and coming. I can't remember what we talked about specifically, but it was enjoyable because we did a lot of reflection and of how things used to be in the past. And I think as much as I can remember, I have short memories.
We talked a little bit about stronger connections in the community, kind of like it was back then, like parks and soda fountains, you said. So. And we stopped at the park across the street here. It's beautiful. I wish everyone could see it. It's and we have a lot of events over there too, and they're all free. Free for anyone in the neighborhood to come and just sit and visit and enjoy the view. We'll be sure to check it out. All right, thanks, Mr. Jonathan.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is group 3, and that was Joy's group.
Okay, cool. Hey, everyone. So the resident representative that was going to speak for us, he had to hop off, but I can just sum up what the group kind of discussed. The cool thing is that a lot of us had like similar things that we all remembered different times in our life, which was Randall Park Mall. And it meant different things to everyone depending on your generation. So some of the people in the group who are older remember when Randall Park Mall was first built and how exciting that was, and just taking the transit to go shopping and just experiencing all the fun things, the arcade. And some of the younger generation like myself, we remember Jeepers and the Magic Johnson Theater and riding that scary roller coaster at Jeepers with the eyes, and it was just really cool. And it's just, you know, riding past it, just, I don't know, it was a very vital part of a lot of our childhoods, and it meant different things to different people. And just riding past it and now seeing that it's a Amazon plant, it just feels different. But a lot of us, that was some of our favorite memories growing up, was experiencing Randall Park Mall.
Okay, next up is group 4, and that was Lexy's group.
Hey everybody, this is Lexy. We are going to have our report out from Keith Benford. And I just want to intro him. He is a fabulous young person on the street, grew up on 66th. He is an artist and a really brilliant mind. So we had the pleasure of having a multi-generational conversation that included a couple of things like walkability and space. And I will have Keith hop in. So Keith, if you can unmute yourself and just share out in about a minute any of your thoughts on what we talked about.
Yeah. What's up, everybody? So, hello, my name is Keith. I think the main thing that we were talking about in our group was just respect for our community and just having a connection to our community, especially in the youth, because they asked the question, what was your favorite memory? And my favorite memory was that connection. And aside from having that connection with my people, you know, having friends in the community, just for a brief period of time, anything outside of that, it was just negative, you know, just remembering people getting jumped, shootings, all that when things started getting bad where I couldn't walk on the street. And now today, my nephew can't walk on the street. But one beautiful thing about my childhood that kind of made me forget all that was working, just being interactive with my community. The person that was in my group, Mr. Frazier, he owns the winery that is on 66 in Quimby. And I worked on his field. And I know just that memory was very important to me when I think about my community. And one thing that we were kind of talking about was dealing with the problem of justice and dealing with the problem of having an identity and having confidence in yourself is in direct relation to how you feel about the community that you live in. It's in direct relation to your environment. So, so one thing that, that we kind of one solution that we kind of came up with in terms of empowering the environment and making the environment more safer and more connected is just creating a respect for the community, being interactive, coming up with interactive spaces, not limiting what people can do with the buildings and inside those buildings as well. So that was kind of like our main gist.
Thank you, Keith, for sharing. That was brilliant and a perfect synopsis. And thank you to Mr. Mansfield and Miss Vicky, who are in our group as well, for all the work that you've done in our community. It's really beautiful. Thank you.
All right. Next up is room 5, which was Tiffany's group.
This is Julian Curtis from City Architecture. I've been nominated as the scribe to report out from the group. We had a small group. Two of the members of our group were from the neighborhood, one of them being our facilitator, Ms. Tiffany Allen. The others in the group were consultants, really, or working on projects in and around the neighborhood, 2 from City Architecture, and others working with Midtown, such as Paul and Nina, who's working with Merritt Chase and the Dunham Tavern, and Joe McDonald from NOACA. So small group. A favorite memory really revolved for everyone in the conversation around being outdoors and this freedom as a youth of being outdoors, whether on your bike or on foot, whether in your front yard, your backyard, just in your neighborhood. That freedom and of rules that were kind of set by you and your crew, but also understanding that there are limits, whether it was a whistle from your mother or father, or just they're being in their sight or within shouting distance, to understand kind of where your boundaries were. But all of the conversation revolved around that freedom of being outdoors as a young child. The vision when we talked for Hough was
it's 7 o'clock.
Interesting conversation. So I'm running low on time. Really a walkable place that celebrates history, acknowledges generations and came before, but also elevates the concerns and the generations of folks that are there now. And for kind of one really powerful statement I think Tiffany made was about really realizing and fulfilling a promise that was made to her as a young child when she first moved to the neighborhood, of creating this vibrant and rich place with amenities and opportunity along East 66 in the Hough neighborhood. And then lastly, I think Tiana really painted Tiana, the other resident that was a part of our conversation, painted a really neat picture of her vision of walking down the street, lush grass, joy that can be seen on folks' faces beyond their smile, but in their eyes, and something that's kind of being felt. She really just described this feeling of her vision that was kind of beyond just a thing, but an emotion. So I thought that was very powerful. And that
Go downstairs.
That's it for us. Sorry, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks so much. I'm going to do a quick report out for our group. We were hoping Devon would be able to do it. He's multitasking and he is participating in the meeting and working tonight at the same time. So we were thrilled to have him involved in the conversation. So I think we talked about very similar things to what we've heard already, that ability to go outside and walk and bike and spend time with friends, and have amenities close by. There were a couple of conversations about corner stores and grocery stores that were down the street, and the ability to go down during the day and get a snack was a favorite memory. And we talked about a vision that included safety and connections and more real engagement with residents, including better information sharing and residents being involved in policy level decisions and decision making. And that was a really important topic. So that, I think, wraps up our share out. And we've got one more question, an interactive question that we'd like to do to kind of wrap things up with one last activity, and that will be followed by some dancing at the end. So this will end very much on a block party feel.
Great, thank you, Michelle. Before we get into the movement, and I think that Daniel was also going to give us a closeout word about our next 2 meetings that we'll have and other ways that you can get in touch with us. Before that, we want to go back to our chat like we did at the top of the meeting. I have a question for everybody, and I'll give everyone, again, about 20 seconds to just think through their answer. And then we'll do a countdown and you'll put your response in the chat and press enter. The question is, what gifts do you have that you might be willing to share with the neighborhood? So that's, what gifts do you have that you might be willing to share with the neighborhood? Oh, Michelle, do you want us to enter into the poll or in the chat? Does it?
We've got the poll up, so if people would like to still be in, if they're able to do that, that would be great.
That's great. And if you want to do both the chat and then the poll, that's wonderful too. So again, I'll give you guys about 10 more seconds to think. What gifts do you have that you might be willing to share with the neighborhood? Here we go. Let's post in 3, 2, 1, go. These are amazing. We have the gift of legal skills in this space. We have past experience working on development in other neighborhoods, working to bring arts and culture, nutritional education. We have understanding time, music tutors. We have some spiritual connections that we might develop, cooking skills, which sounds amazing once we're all back together. This would not be a block party without some good food. Life experiences, businesses, bringing more community-led programming, the gift of IT, baseball, organization. These are wonderful. Keep them coming. Thank you so much. So I encourage you, and then I will pass it on to Daniel. I encourage you to continue sharing. I encourage you, if you've reconnected with somebody tonight, to please continue that connection. All of these gifts do not have to channel just through this project and through us. I think if there's a time for us to be giving to others, it's certainly now. And also, we would love to have your gifts be a part of this official process. If you are interested in continuing on with us, please feel free to send a chat with your information. You can send it directly to Michelle Bandy-Zalatoris, to Joyce Huang, or to myself or Daniel, Lexy Lattimore, or Daniel Gray-Kontar. There is in the chat, you're able to private message, or you can send it out to everyone, your email or phone number. We'd be happy to follow up with you. And then I will pass the mic to Daniel to talk about our next 2 meetings.
All right, so thank you all so much. And I'm gonna keep this super brief because I know we're a little past time and I wanna honor your time, we all do. So thank you again for being here. Really quickly, this was just the beginning. We will have 2 additional meetings, and those will really be deeper dives. We were able to, believe it or not, from your conversations, we are able to draw even more information and draw more data from those conversations about the street and how the street should look and feel. So even these conversations have been tremendously helpful toward that goal. But the next 2 conversations, which are on June 5th and July 10th, respectively, those 2 conversations will allow us to talk even more about some other conversations that have happened. So we have had some focus group discussions with youth, with folks that live along the street. We plan on having conversations with single parent mothers and with our seniors. We will have those focus group conversations, and we'll bring the information from those conversations to you on June 5th and July 10th. We'll also continue to have more meaningful conversations about how these discussions can impact what the street looks like and further gather your input. So this is all in an effort to make sure that we have multiple ways of getting data from the community, of getting stories from the community that can ultimately be interwoven into the framework of the street itself. So our June 5th meeting, we hope to share more information to you and get more from you and dive a little bit more deeply into both of those 2 processes. I hope that made sense. Is there anything that I'm missing, team? Looking at the, okay, please.
I think that was perfect. Thank you.
Good. So is there anything else for the good of the order?
We're gonna do a little movement closeout, but otherwise,
All right.
I think we're okay. So we really wanted to honor this block party. And so I'm gonna ask Michelle or whoever is sharing screen if, oh, I think I'm good, okay. If whoever's sharing screen could stop so I can share sound here. Again, we want to thank all of you so much for coming. We could not decide which movement piece we wanted to close out with, so I consulted with one of our other dancers, Mary Barrett on the line, and our community engagement specialist from Midtown, Joy. And so we're gonna do about a minute of the wobble, and then we're gonna close out in the electric slide to Before I Let Go. before we let go of each other. You are welcome to join us. You are welcome to run away and turn off Zoom. I will not be able to find you, but I see you. So just know that this is a communal space. It's a safe space. Here we go. On your feet, y'all, on your feet.
Oh!